last year I had new potatoes about 3 weeks before Christmas, so I was very proud of myself. And potatoes are very good for you, you know. There's new potatoes are very high in vitamin C, and there's a lot of lysine, which is an amino acid, in the potatoes, and the lysine actually helps put lining on your nervous system, and it's a good antiviral as well. So the potatoes, and of course the vitamin C, is always good for our immune system and so forth, and lots of other parts of our body. So, you know, don't just chuck all the potatoes out. The potatoes aren't too bad. Same with the pumpkin. The pumpkin is very good for us as well, and that actually helps if your liver's getting too hot, if it's overheated. So the pumpkin is very good for that. And of course the kumara has wonderful properties to help with our glucose and the good sugars in our glucose. So it's very good for the brain, and it's very good for the muscles as well. So, you know, there's quite a big craze at the moment with avoiding all your carbohydrates. Be very careful with that one, because they're needed for our brain function. Even my phone agreed then. Our brain function and our muscles. You know, it's not protein that feeds everything. So be very careful. So there was a place for these starches, you know, the potato, pumpkin and kumara, as long as they're steamed, boiled or dry baked. Once you put oil in them, it changes that structure of the carbohydrate, and it does become a bad carbohydrate. There's a saying, critical clean carbohydrates. And so that's your potato, pumpkin and kumara when they're steamed, boiled or dry baked. Okay, so once you put that oil on them for a roast, it changes it, and it's not so great for us. Okay, so back to feet for Bliss. So I've been working with feet for coming up to 26 years now, so it's been a wonderful career for me. And you know, I was able to stay at home and have a clinic at home and have the kids in school and be at home still, and so it's served me very well, and it's been wonderful working on people and getting them back on their feet and getting them back out walking, getting them back into the world, even getting back into work. So it's been a wonderful career, and you can't underestimate the power of the feet. You know, you need them to get to the kitchen to put the jug on, and you need your feet to go to the toilet. So they're the basics in life, a cup of tea and going to the toilet. And if you start to have trouble with your feet, you know about it, because it's very hard to rest your feet, because there's so much to do. You don't want to spend hours on the couch with your feet up, trying to rest them, trying to get them relaxed enough that you can go into town and go to your favourite shop or go and do the supermarket shopping. You know, so I do work with a lot of different conditions with the feet as well. So whether it's flat feet, or high arches, or twisted toes, or hammer toes, or there's swelling in the ankles, heel spurs, plantar fasciitis, hammer toes, kind of you name it, neuroma problems, you name it, I've probably worked on it with the feet. And over 26 years, that's a lot of feet I've worked on. And young and old. So I think the oldest person I've worked on is about 97. Actually, I think he came back when he was 99, just to have his feet done and make sure his balance was really good, and he was able to step and walk with his knee bent. You know, walking flat and kind of shuffling does not exercise the knees or the hips. So you don't want to be doing that for very long. You've got to get your knees bending and moving and stepping off on your toes to get that full movement in the knees and the hips. Because you need healthy knees and healthy hips, because when they start to pack up, you're not a happy person. And then you're down that waiting list, you know, and that's why it's called a waiting list for a knee operation or a hip operation, because you're waiting. And you're still on the waiting list, and then if you're not really connecting to all their points and measurements, then you know you're off the list for a while until you can get enough points and get back on the list again, and then you're waiting. You're on that waiting list again. Meanwhile, you know, your other side is struggling. You know, if you've got a sore knee on the right side, you're putting more weight on the left side. And then by the time they give you the operation, the other side is starting to pack up as well. So it doesn't make for a happy person. So I actually talked to a lady today, and I put her feet on, I have a mat scan that you stand on, and with the weight that sort of goes into the computer, and you can see the imaging of your feet and where the pressure points are on the feet. And say the feet are supposed to be 50-50, 50% on one side, 50% on the other side. She had 57 on one and 43 on the other. So she had a lot more weight coming in, bearing on that left hip. And I said to her, this isn't good. You don't want that for very long, because you'll start to have trouble with your hip. You know, she was having trouble with her right foot, so she was leaning over to the other side. And because that foot had been sore for about 6 months, you naturally keep leaning over to that side, and then all of a sudden a habit starts. And, you know, your right foot might start to feel a little bit better, but you keep leaning over and you don't realise, because the muscles have adjusted and you've been protecting that other side, and your brain might still be saying, keep leaning to the left, the other side might have a problem. And I said, because you don't want in 4 years, 5 years, trouble with that left hip. We need to balance it up now and get that as close to 50-50 as I can, because you don't want that long-term effect and having to be on a list, having to have an operation and all that goes with that. So it made sense to her, so we're going to straighten her out and get her back on track again. So the foot joint mobilisation is working on the bone structure of the feet. It's a little bit like a chiropractor on your back, but I do it with all the bones in the feet. So there's 28 bones in the feet, and if you get any of them that sublux or go out of place, then you don't stand quite correctly. And then that can throw off further down in the foot and interrupt with the toes as well, because we've got 4 bones with the toes, or 3 bones and 2 bones with the big toe, or it can go back up the body as well. And so you don't quite, say for an example, flat feet, that's easy to picture. If one foot drops, the arch drops, then that whole leg comes down, and then you're leaning. There's a rearrangement in the hips effect, and then the muscles have to try and hold things together, and then it becomes like a dominoes effect all the way through, and then the neck and the shoulders, and I remember I had one lady many years ago, probably 20 years ago, and she ticked every box on my form. Her knees, one knee was sore, arthritis in that knee. I think it was the right ankle that it was inflamed and swollen, and I think she had bunions on that side as well. But then on the opposite side, her knee was playing up, and then on the same side, her hip was playing up, and then on the other side, her neck was throwing out more on the tension of the muscles on the right side. And then she had a frozen shoulder, and she had a tennis elbow, and she had RSI or ruche, whatever you'd like to call it now, in the wrists, and then the fingers were starting to tighten up as well. And so it was like all the effects right through the whole body. So I started working on her twice a week for 8 weeks, and she had arthritis as well, and she'd said to me, Maree, if I stop, I know I'm just going to just freeze up and nothing's going to work properly, so I'm pushing myself through all this. And I said, okay, look, just give me a bit of time and it's going to get better and better. And she was on painkillers and anti-inflammatories as well. And so within about 4 weeks, so that was 2 treatments a week, so about 8 treatments, and she comes bouncing in and she goes, you know, I've reduced my painkillers. I said, have you? And she goes, yep, I haven't got the pain like I was having. And I said, okay, well, just see how you go. And, if the pain comes back a little bit, you might have to take those painkillers back in again for a little bit longer. I don't tell people to stop their painkillers. They just do it naturally, because if I'm not in pain, why take them? And so by the time we got to the 6th week, she had no pain in her body. She had more flexibility. Her joints were much better. Her hands were starting to get stronger as well. And so by the end of the 8 weeks, she just thought I was just lovely. She thought I was wonderful, and she was able to play bowls better. Her body was more in balance, so she could actually place the ball where she wanted to for it to end up. And she was away, and of course she never had to come back once a month. Everything stays in place because the feet are in balance. It won't throw the rest of the body out, whereas if you correct just a hip and you've still got, say, flat feet, the hip won't stay in place because the feet are flat, and that's pulling those muscles again. And so it can come back and annoy you. So by balancing out from the base, from the feet, from the beginning, from the structure, if we look at a house, you get a builder, he knows he has to get the foundations right. Because if he doesn't get the foundations right, none of those walls will meet plumb. He'll just always be struggling. Same with racehorses. If their hooves aren't right and their shoes aren't right for racing, the horse will never win a race. And of course, they have that. If the horse has got a broken leg, what do? They shoot it. They don't fluff around with it. Not with racehorses. They know it'll never be right. Same with race cars as well. You get the 4 wheels. They're always checking the wheels and making sure that they're, wheel balancing, making sure the wheels are right, because if it's one side isn't very good or one wheel's not very good, they just won't hold the corners properly. They're not going to win a race. Not that I'm telling you you've got to win a race, but I think you got the idea of what I'm meaning. So it's not hard to understand the foot joint mobilisation. And I've seen such wonderful, they're almost like miracles, because the body just heals itself. You give it the right chance, it will come back, whether it's sciatica or neck pain, shoulders, lower back pain, knees, hips. I get 95% success, so there is occasionally the odd person that I can't fix. It does happen, it still does after 25 years, but the majority of people, they're happy and they're back out in life enjoying themselves again. So that's the foot joint mobilisation. And I can hear somebody asking what the price is. Okay, so the first treatment is $70, and it's a 45 minutes, 45-minute appointment, and I take all your details and I put your feet on a MAT scan, which goes into the computer, and we can see where the weight distribution and pressure points are, and that includes your first treatment as well. And then from then on, it's 30-minute appointments and $40, or gold card, $35 appointment. So it's very reasonable, and if you tried to get that kind of price with anyone else that has 25 years experience, you're not going to find it in Hawke's Bay. So I'm very reasonable. I try and keep my costs down as much as I possibly can to keep this affordable. And so, you're getting someone who's very well qualified and has a lot of knowledge for that little bit of price, because quite often people will ask me about other things. They might know somebody, or they have a relative or something with an issue, and I'll give them an idea of what they can do to help, even if it's just something simple like having a bath with Himalayan salt. That's very good if you're stressed and you're worried and things are happening around you. Hop into a bath with the Himalayan salt. And that's that pink salt. It's the best kind of salt you can get on the market at the moment. You can put a kilo of Himalayan salt in a bath and you soak in it for half an hour. You will feel more relaxed, you will sleep better, because you'll find that the minerals, there's still minerals in that salt. It hasn't been taken out. The minerals will go in through the skin and the toxins will come out. Pull the plug and away it goes. So this is a good way to top up fairly quickly, even if you're into sports. If you're a runner or on bikes or any kind of massive amounts of exercising, you need to get the minerals back into your body. And I know my husband does a lot of running and a lot of long distance running, and so I'll get him in the baths with the Himalayan salt, and it just tops him up, keeps all the ligaments and tendons going really well so he has no injuries. And so even leading up to a big event, he might be in a bath once a week for the last month, and then the night before the event he's in a bath with a kilo of hot salt, and then as soon as the event's over and we're back at the motel or home, wherever it is, he's back in another kilo of the Himalayan salt, and his recovery is so fast and he's able to be functionable that evening or for the rest of the day, not just sitting down doing nothing. So the Himalayan salt is very easy, it's very economical, it's very effective. So there's some wonderful things around that we can do that's very effective and very quick. Not everything has to be expensive. So if you're wanting to give me a ring and make an appointment or have a chat to me, my number is 027 249 5090. So I have a clinic in Hastings in Waipakarau. In Hastings, it's 201 King Street, which is right at the back of Countdown. And I'm in Waipakarau on Mondays and Fridays. And Hastings, I'm here Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. So my phone number again is 027 249 5090. So I not only specialise in the bone structure of the feet, but I also do hands as well, and mobilising hands. So if your knuckles are sore and tender, there's not much flexibility in your hands, you've worked them for years and years and years, and they're just not what you want. Maybe you've even lost a bit of strength in your hands. So, working on the hand, opening them up, getting them more flexible, getting the blood supply in there, it's very rewarding, getting that strength and that mobility back in your hands. I remember a lady came in and she was 80 and she came in for her feet, and then she says to me, I'm really struggling with my hands. And so I started working on her hands as well, so the feet and the hands. And she was telling me that she was a piano teacher, had been a piano teacher all her life, and played the piano, grand piano, so you can just picture all that beautiful music. And she said, but the last 2 years I've had to give up. She said, I had to give up teaching about 5 years ago, but she had to give up playing the piano about 2 years before I saw her, because her hands wouldn't stretch any further, and stretching out and getting all the keys. And I said to her, right, we're on a mission. I said, you still got your piano? And she goes, oh yes, it's in there. I said, right. And so I started working on her hands as well, and started getting the mobility and getting that the blood supply back into the joints. And it was probably only about 3 weeks, so about 6 treatments. She comes in after a weekend and she goes, guess what I was doing in the weekend? I said, I don't know, what were you doing? And she goes, I was playing the piano. You should have seen the look on her face. It was like she'd won lotto. It was like just magic. She thought she'd never be able to play the piano again. She thought she'd said goodbye to it and that was it. So things can be reversed and the body will repair given the right chance. And she came in the following weekend and she goes, guess what I was doing? I said, playing the piano. And she goes, oh yes, I was doing that, but I was also got the knitting needles out. So she was able to get back into the knitting as well. So it's that fine motor work on the fingers, the fine tuning, the being able to move them the way that you want to move them. And it's not just women that I work on, of course. I get quite a lot of men coming to me because, you know, you've got builders, you've got electricians, you've got engineers, they need their hands, and there's nothing worse than, apart from feet, eh? If you can't move your feet and you can't move your hands, I mean, life is not much fun at all. So, you know, don't give up. Don't give up. Give me a ring. Give it a try. It's worth a try. I get 95% success. You know, people should be pounding my doors. And you know very quickly, within about 5 treatments, whether I'm working for you or not. So it's not like you have to wait 6 weeks, 8 weeks and go, I don't know whether this is working. You're going to know very quickly whether I'm starting to get that improvement with you or not. As I say to people, each treatment you just get a little bit better and a little bit better. So what else do? I also work with the feet doing reflexology. Reflexology is a very wonderful therapy as well. I've been doing that for even longer than the foot joint mobilisation, actually. And the first time I worked with reflexology was with my children, of course. It was so wonderful learning a modality that I could help my own children. You know, where it's like normal, like they wake up in the middle of the night with an earache, or they wake up with a sore tummy. It's always in the middle of the night. Or when you're going off for a picnic and they go, I got a sore tummy. And it's like, do you go or don't you? And so it's been wonderful knowing for reflexology all those years where the children were growing up. It's just nice to be able to help them without having to constantly take them to the doctors and be worrying about this, that or the other thing. You still need the doctor, of course, but it just takes a lot of stress away, and especially in the middle of the night. You know, you can just do something instead of going, oh, poor little Johnny, it's no good, is it? And give him a pat. So the reflexology is very nice. It's an hour's treatment. You're lying on the massage table on your back and at your feet and working on your feet, about half an hour on each feet. And you instantly, by the time you get up, you're all relaxed and you just feel as if you're walking on clouds, like you're floating. So reflexology is very much like having an internal massage on all the organs and the systems. And that's how I describe the difference between the foot joint mobilisation. The foot joint mobilisation only lasts half an hour for both feet. It's not a long treatment. It's quite quick and it's effective. But that's working on the structure of the feet, the bone structure. Whereas the reflexology is working on the internal, the blood supply, your stomach, your nervous system, your brain, your liver, your kidneys. We've got a lot of organs in there that need looking after. So the reflexology is working on all the organs and the systems, relaxing or stimulating. If it's overproductive, it needs to come down. If it's under, it needs to come back up. So it's always bringing in that homeostasis. So even blocked bladders or the kidneys aren't working as well as they should be, sometimes it just needs that stimulation, unblock itself, and away it goes, or away you go to the toilet and release. So the reflexology is lovely. It's just bringing things back to a balance. It works straight away. You're not having to wait 2 days or 3 days. It happens. It just happens, and our beautiful body does heal itself. Now, I'd like to thank you for listening today, and if you would like to ring me, my number is 027 249 5090. Thank you.